Aye. Opposed? Garrett, are you able to hear us okay?
Garrett Wilson should be operated.
There we go. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Garrett, there was a motion on the floor to accept the amended minutes with a review of the H. Corey charge. Agenda. We will be adjusting the minutes too, but that's a separate issue.
So I'm an aye. I accept.
Great, thank you. So that we had that for the minutes. So we will start with the agenda. Facility projects update.
All right, can I speak from here? Does that pick me up, or do I need to?
If you could move a little bit closer, it'd probably sound better.
Yeah. Sure. Does this work?
I think that should probably work.
All right. Well, thanks, folks. First time we've spoken since the bond passed, and I guess the first order of business is thank you to you and the voters for your confidence. It's a lot to figure out. Right out of the chute, as we talked about from the beginning, the focus is on immediate projects that are either directly related to life safety, projects that if we don't address them immediately will become geometrically more expensive or impactful, and projects that are not directly linked to a larger planning effort. So just running through the schools quickly, in this facility, we are working hard on planning for life safety upgrades. We have an engineer, FS Fire Safety Engineering is developing the scope of work for the fire alarm replacement for this entire complex and the sprinkler replacement for this entire complex. And as is true with all things, it's so easy to say that. The engineering effort is fairly complicated. The sprinkler system we will need to work through because we may or may not have sufficient water to the building to power it. So that's part of the engineering process. So that's well underway. Those contracts are in place, and that work is going on right now. We had a kickoff meeting with Boy & King, who we have retained to do a scoping study related to this concrete stair structure out here, which has been talked about a lot. That team involves a structural engineer, obviously, civil engineers related to the stormwater and how we deal with that drainage, both as it impacts the surface drainage across the front of the complex and the subsurface drainage that goes under the building. And because as we dig into it, we learn a little more, we also now have some utility engineers looking at the electrical service and how that's been impacted. They were here, we had the kickoff meeting about 3 weeks ago. I spoke with them early this week, and we're hoping to have kind of an operating document in the next couple of weeks that gets us kind of pointed in a direction. Keeping in mind, in terms of how that's executed, the lion's share of what we do right now relates to the civil and structural piece because it gets into the footings of the catacombs and the storm sewers and all that. But very quickly, the conversation is going to pivot to the larger planning effort because it's going to impact this whole parking area and access to the building. So we really need to be mindful of that before we start planning where the drainage is going to go, because if we're going to adjust parking or the way people come and go from the building, we really need to consider all those things at the same time. So yeah, that will address the problems in the catacombs, the main electrical, the water infiltration, the drainage, the stairs, all this kind of one big combined effort. So yeah, that's all that's going on here, just a couple things. And then, along with that, we're still getting through sorting out some of the issues we have with water quality. That's underway, and great cooperation and partnership with the state on that. And we finished a couple months ago, we finished all the PCB sampling for the whole school. And we'll get those results back in the next couple of weeks and take it as it comes. The elementary schools, Dothanbrook and Ottaquechee. At Ottaquechee, looking at the what I call the uphill drainage problem, which is as you pull down at Ottaquechee, it's all ledge, and that end of the building has been damp, from what I'm told, forever. So looking at a drainage project that diverts the water from that end of the building, which then allows us to deal with some of the moisture problem we have in the building, replacing the entry on that side of the building, those things that it doesn't make sense to do prior to dealing with the drainage. Again, always keeping in mind the larger planning effort. If there is going to be changes to that building, we need to keep those in mind. If there's going to be a pre-K playground and we're digging stuff up, that's the time to prep for that. If we're going to, change access to the building or the way buses are run, that's the time to think about that. Dothanbrook, be a little surprised when the fire alarm reached the end of its usable life. So that got added to the list in a hurry, and we're getting good at fire alarms. So that's also in planning. It's fully functional at the moment. It's just we can't get parts and pieces. So it's tested, functional, safe. It just moved up the list. And then both of those, back to the beginning, the roofs. I've been working with Truex Collins, who's an architectural firm that does a lot of work with academic and industrial buildings. And their mandate right now is to help us kind of put together a plan to identify the kind of root causes of the problems we've had, the ventilation problems, basically the rusting metal roof. What are the root causes? What are the existing conditions? And that involves bringing in some help. DuBois and King previously had done some structural engineering work for us there, so they're on that team. Gale Engineering out of Massachusetts, which is the building envelope specialists, are on that team. And so Truex is kind of running that process, but as kind of a cost saving and just to kind of keep tight controls on it, those individual entities will be contracted directly with us. So I'm happy to have help organizing the effort, but I want to maintain that direct connection. And really what that's going to look like is, we spent a lot of time crawling around those buildings, and what does the situation demand in terms of design. So the reason for involving the architectural firm in that assessment stage is so that what they design is driven by the comprehensive assessment. We had some failed attempts in the past with designs that didn't really capture the nuances of cost. So I think we're on a good path toward that. The middle school, about ready to put out an RFP for a chimney replacement, which is next summer will kind of consume that school because it's basement to the roof, and it's going to be considerably higher than the chimney that's there, and it will involve demolition from the basement to the roof. And that's one that is kind of it's a standalone because the design will be such that no matter what direction we go in with that building or what heat source we end up, whether it be wood pellets or propane or Cheerios, the chimney will function. We're not going to put anything in that needs to be modified in the next 20 years. And again, that needs to be done regardless of what the planning process decides for that building. Similarly, the main elevator controls in there. We're trying hard to get competitive pricing, but it's a hard market to do. But what I'm trying to do, because that's also a very invasive project, is do that. It sounds a little counterintuitive, but do it at the same time as the chimney, so that if we have to shut the building down for a period of time, we're doing as much as we can during that shutdown, and not just wearing people down every summer. And that's another one that is kind of independent, because no matter what the planning process points toward, we're going to have an elevator in the building. So those are the things we can just do. Some smaller projects with impact that you may get questions about. I got planning and zoning to give us approval without going back again for the playground installation at Wilder, which is great. I got that letter this week, so getting that squared away. We do have some utility work to do there. And then the Christian Street project is rolling along. I had what might be the largest assembly of state engineers I've ever seen in one place. We went out to have the final site meeting about wetlands, easements, and everything, but it's all working out. And we have a design and putting that out to bid. So it's chugging along. And really those are the big projects in process right now. Other things on that list are always in play. And as these projects evolve, specifically things like the sprinkler system in this building, the design effort can happen about 85% of the way before we have to talk about what could potentially happen with the gym, right? Because if the design effort, I keep looking at you, if the planning effort points towards a large, district 1,000-seat assembly place, multi-purpose, we need to make sure that our fire alarm system and sprinkler system that we must do in the next 24 months allows that to happen in 5 or 10 years. And it's oversized, but it's not just oversized. It's a little bit more complicated. It needs to be designed with at least a concept in mind. So it's a little tricky because it's go, go, go and wait at the same time. And similarly, this project with the drainage out here, the drainage for the roof of this building goes underneath the building and then exits and goes basically under the B wing, through the courtyard, under the B wing, and comes out behind the gym, right? And then it picks up all the drainage from the gym and the field house, and actually picks up all the drainage from the arena, right? And fires that all out, and we have to re-engineer that if we're gonna change parking significantly, or we're going to change the structures that we have on that end of the property, the gym, significantly. We need to make sure that civil engineering incorporates at least some aspirational thinking so that we don't take too many steps back down the road. So that's what's going on. Cool.
I'm assuming all the projects that you just listed, the cost for those are coming off from bond.
So there's a couple things that are still coming out of the fund balance dollars. The Wilder Playground's coming out of the fund balance. Some of the studies, and if Jake were here, he could speak to this more eloquently than I, but like the engineering study for this, we had to pull the trigger because it's going to be such a long process. So we used fund balance funding for the engineering study. The project will be funded by the bond. And he and I are working on a methodology where at the end of the day, even though we might have separate sources, we'll capture the total cost of the project so that we can report on that, say from inception and study through execution, this was the total cost of the project.
It's too bad Jake isn't here. Does he have a running summary sheet as that you're signing contracts and committing, in one sense, committing dollars? So that, for the board, at least for me, I'd like to know on a monthly basis when we meet exactly where we are dollar-wise.
So
nothing comes as a surprise.
Well, we can pull together, reporting on any given project, and I'm sure we could assemble a report of identified projects. Right now, so much is still in the planning stage that the big expenses aren't going to hit for 10 or 12 months.
But once again, that's where we need to keep everybody informed.
Yeah.
So nothing comes as a surprise.
Yes, so what Jake and I have talked about is every project will essentially, within the budget, have its own budget code. So for instance, the roofing projects at Dothan, Brook, and Ottaquiche, where we will have George Scullins, who's doing kind of an oversight of the scoping process, and then we have Gale Engineering, who's doing a very specific envelope study. We have DuBois and King, who's doing some very specific structural things. We may get separate contracts and invoices, but they will all wrap up under that project. So we'll be able to say that project, the roofing project, as identified, has this scope, these are the resources being applied and the costs associated with those resources. And that's something that he and I communicate with regularly so that we can provide that information. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
It's not what I'm looking for, it's what.
Well, yeah, no, I
these
mean,
people
what, I
would
guess
like-
I should say what
It's
you
their
need.
dollar.
Yeah, what you
They'd
need.
like to know.
Yeah, I think, especially with the commitment to the bond, we have talked a lot about the obligation to be able to be very agile and complete and transparent in our reporting.
Right. I mean, we need a process so that the public shouldn't have to come to us saying what's happening. We should be feeding them on, whether it's every 2 months or something, where they have the information given to them so that there's no surprise.
And it is part of our responsibility as a board to have that information and to be able to give it out to the public.
I mean, it's such a huge amount of money. This was not something that came easy to get. And so I just want to be super sensitive that the people who gave us the money are informed, and they shouldn't have to come and say, well, I saw the bulldozer or something doing, what's going on, and a running total of where we are as that 21 million comes down.
So I'm very confident that between Jake and I, we can provide accurate, clear information both about the scope and schedule of projects and the associated, the monies that have been encumbered by contracts and the dollars that have been spent associated with those contracts and the execution of those contracts. We can provide that regularly and completely. What you all do with that in terms of communicating with the public is different. Yeah.
Make on our homepage, could we not make a slot for some title for what?
Well, can I ask what software you're using? Is it using Excel primarily, or like?
For that, we would be using Excel. I don't see a problem with keeping, a tab with a running list,
You can even create a dashboard that just updates when the Excel's update, so that it's not someone compiling a report every month. It's always available, and it's auto
That's my point.
feeding, right?
If there's a format that you would like for public presentation, Jake and I work primarily in Excel. And you can, you can even use Excel if you're disciplined about it for narrative that can auto-populate as we update. And if that's something you want to do, you just need to provide some direction about how you want to set up that.
I guess at this point, what we're very clear on is that we're looking for transparency.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate goal. We have competent people in those positions to ensure that that happens. My suggestion would be that we have a time suggested that we see the rollout of what that would look like, whatever we decide to call it, be it a dashboard, be it whatever. But I'd like to see it in action, and we might be able to pull it up so that we can share it with the community. This is the deal. If you want to know, this is where to go, and this is what you will see, and this is what it will look like. So I think that would resolve, our concerns around, transparency, and it's well within our capability and ability, and it only makes sense. So.
Could I throw something in the mix too? Could we use this as an opportunity to try to put together maybe a monthly newsletter, something that we can get out to the community, and use this as an opportunity to also grow our email list or subscriber list, if you'd like to call it that. I mean, I know that parents would definitely like to know what's going on with the schools on a regular basis, and I know obviously they're taxpayers, so they'd like to know what's going on monetarily as well. But I think maybe we could use this as an opportunity to launch a monthly newsletter and continue to get that information out there. And I'm all for updating the website as well. But I know that I mean, a lot of people aren't going to go there. I think we need to be proactive in getting it out to them. So I don't know how everybody feels about that.
Garrett, you know, we've had that discussion, you know, with the engagement committee about how do we get more information out and better to, you know, the public. That makes sense. I think that we need to ensure, though, that there's a clear, focused process for all of this, so that regardless of the tools we use, they are available. Okay, because, you know, trying to get, you know, let's say a newsletter out sounds, you know, reasonable at the beginning, but someone is going to have to pull that together, you know, and that's the other piece to that puzzle. Whereas the information from the construction and the timeline for the bond is part of our regular reporting cycle, you know, so that has to be up to date, because when the auditors look at each individual, you know, cell, they're going to want to make sure that it's all balanced. So that there's a has to do and what we'd like to do. So I think we can't let one slow the other one down.
I agree with you, but I think that one newsletter per month is totally feasible. I mean, once a week, I understand that's a much heavier lift, but one newsletter per month, you know, to all the people footing the bill for all the projects, I think is worth it. I think it's worth the effort to put it together. But I agree with you that if we do it, we want to be consistent, and we want to make sure that whatever channels we choose, we use them consistently so that we don't lose people.
Exactly. So I guess moving forward from here, being that we do have a community engagement, you know, group, and that happens to be one of the members that raised the question, and then the other member that raised the question about the newsletter, being you and Doug. If you guys would like to help steer that process, it would be well appreciated. That part of it.
I'm all for it.
Okay.
And, you know, for my part, whatever information you need for that effort, if you just tell me what information and the granularity of that information, I'm happy to you know, put that in whatever format's required. Just
I think once the bond steering committee gets rolling, which will be this summer, the next couple of months here, that would definitely be a goal, some sort of a monthly communication, or as needed, you know, when big expenses are made or big purchases, that we would update, you know, and inform the community about what we did and where we're going.
I mean, from my perspective there, I mean, it will take a couple of months, but there are really easy ways to make sure that the next milestone always shows up on the dashboard, and where we stand on percent completion always shows up on the dashboard. Because as long as they're keeping their paperwork up to date, those types of things will just fill themselves.
That's exactly right.
But it doesn't, you can't set one up overnight. So I mean, I would assume that we would launch this in the fall.
Yeah. And a monthly or quarterly newsletter is part of the plan. It's just at this time of the year, going to the summer months, it's not really practical. But certainly as we, you know, later on in the agenda, we talk about the media relations and.
But as far as information goes, it's all information that we generate and track anyway. All I need to know is how you need it formatted to populate the information that you want to distribute.
How do we disaggregate it? Okay. Yes.
So with these kinds of things, the devil is always in the detail. I'm sorry. In these kinds of things, the devil is always in the detail. I would suggest that if you're going to do that, we mock up something and present it, and then we prove what we're going to be then giving to the public, because we don't want to promise and under-deliver. We want to know what we can actually do. So you've got lots of experience. I've seen your spreadsheets multiple times and your project management documents and so forth. So I'm quite sure we can put together something, but we need to make sure that whatever we're promising to deliver is what we can actually deliver. So I would suggest that before we just make a blanket statement, we're going to get something out, we have a presentation of what that would likely be, and we say, does this meet the needs and what we think we're going to do? That's the only comment I have.
No, I'm fully on board with that. Like, I want to get started with the steering committee because I think a natural roll down of that is that we will meet more regularly. Because, I mean, I can share with Jonathan what I found my audiences find relevant, you know. So, yeah, I agree.
And it only makes sense. So that is the direction that we will be going. And thank you, Doug, as always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Doug? Garrett, are you all set?
I'm all good. Just thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate the update.
And we'll continually get regular updates, and the design of them will shift as we evolve into full phase. So that's the other piece of expectation. Okay. Finance report.
Yeah, Jay couldn't be here tonight, but just quickly, a couple things. With the new yields, the present tax estimate is updated on the attached page, so I'm going to flash that up. So we've had a little bit of good news around the budget impact for next year, the tax rate. So now it dropped from 18.5 to 15.5% on the homestead tax and 10.8% on the income tax. So that's some good news for the taxpayers. A couple other things, we entered our application into the summer bond pool with the bond bank for a newly approved bond, so we should be hearing about that soon. And the FY24 audit is scheduled for the last week of July. That is the finance report.
Question? Oh, just another quick comment, going back to the facilities piece. Just keep this as a tickler. The bill passed that is looking at reimbursement for school construction. The implications of that, haven't been clearly flushed out yet. But as they move forward, your association, of facilities managers, should be getting updates, continually on that. So just kind of keep an ear to the ground. There are some pieces in that that will allow for some shovel-ready projects, and some of our projects might find themselves fitting that criteria as we go along. So just keep.
So that's one of the, with that in mind, there have been pretty regular updates. That's one of the reasons the push has been to get some of this engineering stuff to get to shovel ready before that comes out.
Exactly.
Just, with the desire to be first in line.
Yep, you got it. So that I just wanted to make sure we kind of kept that as a tickler in the file there. Okay. That brings us to media relations report and update.
Yeah, well, the report is in your packet. Not going to read through the report. Hope the public and board members went through that, but this was our first foray into hiring a consultant to help with media relations, and we did a lot of work. We had a number of activities planned, a number of press releases, a bigger social media presence, and a lot of help on the budget and the bond. But I've still heard a lot of concerns about the firm. If you remember when I put the bid out for the proposal of a bid, I only got 2 responses, and the local firm that we wanted to use backed out at the last minute. So in order to get started, I used a firm that is based in Rhode Island, but our actual consultant is in Colorado, and it's been really difficult on staff and not the presence that we wanted. I think they've done a good job, but it'd be nice to have someone local who I point to the story and he or she goes and gets the story and supports it with visual and just gets it done independently, but to add work to administrators or central office staff in Portsmouth. So that takes something away from us. So what I propose is that we put it out for bid again this summer, you know, what we're looking for and see what we get, and, you know, hopefully add part of, you know, whether it's a monthly or quarterly newsletter to that request, as well as, you know, our social media presence and whatever else we want done. The difficult part is this is a year where we had significant budget cuts, so we don't have a ton of revenue or a ton of money to support it, but we have enough to get started. So that's my 2 cents on the media relations project.
Thoughts? You and Garrett, have you had a chance to give any thought to the rest of the report?
No.
Yes. So there are a number of media coverage reported in this report. What's not clear to me is if these are media coverages that would have occurred otherwise and we're just cataloging it, or that they were in some way promoted, derived from the actions of the firm.
Okay, yeah, a little bit of both. Yeah, so that's part of the concern too, is what actually has got published. You know, we're depending on the firm to get it in local newspapers or get it in, you know, different media sites, but you know, we want a little more presence in that.
And my experience, my limited experience of interacting with them was during the bond and budget conversations, and I had a quick conversation via Zoom with a lady in Colorado in which I was told I should do a number of things in terms of preparing a video pronouncement on the subject, but other than sort of general directions that I do it, there wasn't anything in terms of concrete, let's discuss these issues, this is how you present yourself. I had no experience doing a, you know, a public, formally filmed kind of thing. And the idea that I somehow capture a video device of some sort and sit myself down against a neutral background was not terribly useful. So I'm a little bit less than impressed, is what I have to say.
Well, I think that's how many of us feel, so.
Yeah.
I think we try again. I mean, obviously they can bid on the RFP if they'd like. Hopefully we're able to get it out to a wider array of, you know, sites and get some more interest, but, you know, it was 2 proposals, like I said. We wanted to try something.
So I think as we move forward, that RFP, if you, would make sure that the facilities, not the facilities, the PR committee, has a chance to sit with you and review the scope of that RFP so that we're very clear about what our expectation is, regarding communication in all forms of media, and that'll help.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Great. Board summer schedule, retreat and joint meeting with the select board.
Yeah, so just to start a conversation with the board around, ideas for a summer retreat. We usually have some sort of training or conversation around our strategic planning, our goal setting, big wants, tasks for next school year. So just give me some ideas in case we need to, I need to look for a trainer or, plan some sort of a retreat for the board on a specific topic. And then also talking about a future joint meeting with the select board, whether you want that to happen in the summer, in the early fall. Getting into the next item a little bit, but I didn't know if there were ideas or.
Well, just, keeping in mind that when we've done that in the past with the select board, it seemed that the fall was a good time because it's the lead up to budget cycle, and it's a good time to have that discussion at the beginning of that cycle. Especially if there's any joint projects that we might be doing that involve us collectively, because there is so much usage, of the school resources jointly through the recreation department especially. So.
There was a draft agenda that John Haverstock, the town manager, and I worked on, and again, it's just a draft, just for ideas, discussion. I don't know if the school board, if all of you have some other ideas or things that you would rather not discuss at this time. This is what the list is sort of shaping up as. Again, nothing set in stone, it was just things that we've talked about and we know are concerns for either the select board or the school board or both boards. We know the town-wide reassessment needs to happen. We just want to keep hopping on that, make sure it happens, and keep pushing, to get updates on that.
So it's a good jumping off point.
Yeah.
So, if I could go back to the previous issue, because I had a comment, I would be interested, putting as far as an idea, that one of the major issues we discussed in our retreat is the search for a replacement superintendent.
The what?
The search for a replacement superintendent. I think this is going to be a significant portion of our task in the coming year. It's something that's vitally important that we get right. And as part of that, we need to both work on what the mistakes and issues that were in the attempt to start that process last year, and figure out if we can avoid those pitfalls in the future, and also sort of think about how, as we go forward, we want to work on the relationship with the superintendent and the board. And so those are my ideas of potential ideas for the retreat.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the sooner that we get started on this search, the better. But I also know for a fact that, again, you know me, I'm gonna vote for VSBA. Not for us to switch search firms, because we were already under contract with the other people. But they've got somebody that can come in and really guide us from the start of what we should be looking at, what we should be thinking about, other than what the five of us think we should be looking at or thinking about. Right. And I would highly encourage that be part of that retreat, that we have that person come in and talk to us about that. If we're going to talk about the search, then I think we need to have somebody who is an expert at doing this and have been very successful doing it, just to guide us with the other search firm. That's my suggestion. Just a thought to think about.
Well, we're adding agenda items.
Well, I think,
You know, I mean, for the retreat, you know, so it only makes sense.
absolutely.
And with respect to the draft agenda, I had no issues with any of the issues, though I do have to admit a certain amount of consternation. Where did that come from with respect to track construction? Are we talking about a return to the idea of doing a track as for athletic events, which is an interesting idea? I still have the scars from the last time we engaged in that conversation. The conversation about this year's budget was positively mild in comparison to that. Nonetheless, I'm not adverse to it, but I don't know if there's any interest, if that came up in some way.
It did, it came up.
And how.
Yeah,
So,
it came up
curious.
just as in, is there a way to get this done for the people, citizens of Hartford? Something that both the town, recreation, and school have continued to want and need, and we just feel like we should be talking about it. And maybe part of the problem in the past was the location and the cost of putting it here. Maybe there's a better site in town that won't require $1.5–2 million of infrastructure work before you even talk about the track itself. So that was the idea, something for the bond committee to sort of, well, maybe not the bond committee, but for the board to start thinking about together.
Even if this isn't the fall, can I suggest that you don't talk about like specific future planning topics, but talk about the work going towards that? Because like, I think that might, the Performing Arts Center as well might sway or frame things that we're not ready to frame. Does that make any sense? Like, I just don't think we're gonna be there yet. Like, I'm hardcore a fan of the first one on the joint initiatives, but I would just recommend maybe not talking about specific initiatives unless we've come to a place with the firm where we're starting to make recommendations.
Right. So I think part of the problem we ran into with the track last year, we sort of decided to do it and then tried to figure out how to do it and how much it was going to cost. And we sort of ended up with problems, and the problems were both dramatic increases in scope of the project while significantly reducing the budget every time in an attempt to figure out how to make it work. And then we settled on it, we sort of stuck with that and had the worst of both worlds. We were making promises we couldn't keep and not fitting the budget to what we had promised. And we also didn't know, as we subsequently learned, about the multiple feet of clay that would have to be removed under the entire football field to make everything last longer than a year, and those kinds of problems. So I think conversations about how we would approach it, what kind of work we would do to investigate the idea, and to have make a whole lot more sense than just sort of digging straight in and going to that as a goal. So I agree with you.
So as we move forward, it's more about having good communication with the two boards. You know, that's critical and that's mission critical. The topics of discussion, you know, will come, you know, from that. And we know from experience, things to avoid, so to speak.
I think the real goal of that being on this draft is just to let folks know that we're interested in maybe partnering on some of the big things for the town.
Well,
Those aren't just for the school,
right,
for the community.
They're community issues.
Community assets, and it's not necessarily just a school expense or town, but we all could benefit from a track, we all could benefit from a performing arts center, or probably a lot of other areas.
Right, exactly. So, you know, as each of the two boards are moving, you know, projects and questions forward, I think it's really critical that we're talking together, because that's going to make the work of the facilities committee and the bond committee, you know, more concrete. The lab construction. Okay, so any other? Garrett?
I can't hear you, Coach.
No, just
I didn't hear. Oh, I'm still here, and I agree with what Sarah said, but I would like to, I guess, keep those items like a performing arts center and track construction as topics to speak with the select board about. I mean, as somebody who's lived in this community my whole life, the fact that we don't have a track at our high school, but have a track team, and the fact that we don't have just a track in town, you know, I think it's a disservice to our kids and our community. So I think it's something that we should continue to talk about and figure out a way to make it happen. Because we have other sites in this town where it could go.
And we have kids that really are outstanding track athletes and have won a lot of awards.
The boys team just won the division.
Yep, exactly.
So, you know, that's been ongoing. So we will continue.
Thank you.
End of the year events.
Yeah, a couple things. High school graduation, probably the biggest event, is on the 14th, Friday the 14th. Hopefully outside on the field at 7 p.m. With Russ North's departure from the board, we need, or I hope we can have a board member that does the honors awards. So presents the awards for their thesis work and the awards at graduation. It's usually 5 or 6, 7 kids, call them up, congratulate them on their work. So we need somebody to step up and do that. Kevin has usually done the school director's awards. I don't know if you want to continue to do that. Honors award night is the 9th at 6 p.m., so it's a Sunday night at 6. The Tech Center's end of the year celebration is on May 30th at 5:30 at the high school auditorium. And the last exhibition night of the year is the same day, so the 30th at 4. So you can make an afternoon of Hartford High School on the 30th. Those will be in the minutes, but if you want them in some other form, that's easy. I don't know if you want to make a decision tonight about the honors award or how you want to handle that. I do need to know which board members are going to be coming too, because we have to make space up front.
I'll be glad to do it if the board is okay with that. And I will be there anyway, because it's really worth being done too.
Well, this, that
Yeah.
isn't the same.
Yeah, I realize,
piece,
yeah,
yeah.
but I was planning on being there
Yeah,
anyway, so it's okay. Yeah,
So it sounds like Nancy will pick up where Russ was. And I'll do the thing.
Do other board members plan to attend so I can make sure there's space? It's fine either way. We traditionally don't have everyone there because it's hot and it's long and it's a lot.
I unfortunately won't be there at graduation. I'm out of town that weekend. So I wanted to let you guys know.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
I probably will be continuing my usual tradition of not attending.
Doug, you can think about it, let me know whether you can or not. If Nancy, you need to go through the names of the students to make sure you got the pronunciations right.
yes,
Mr.
please.
Boggs,
Yes, I
more
will.
than willing to do that. It's probably a good idea because parents and kids get very offended when we say the names
Sure.
correctly.
Absolutely. Perfect, thank you.
That's that. Speaking of end of the year events, the prom was held recently. And I happened to be sitting in a window directly overlooking where the pictures were being taken, as they were being taken. And they all looked gorgeous. Yeah, we had 256 kids.
Well,
And they loved it. I'm not kidding, my son doesn't love anything. And he had great things to say.
We had no problems or concerns or anything. And one thing I particularly liked was the fact that the year my daughter went to the prom, they had been told that they were only taking pictures of couples. And this time they didn't do that. They had large groups of girls, boys, mixed groups, all of whom wanted to record the fact that they were celebrating this together. And that was lovely. I don't think I mentioned the retirement celebration. That is technically the board's and the teachers union event on the 5th, so June 5th. Wednesday, 2 weeks from tonight, I think. And it's at 3:30. Well, it starts at 3:30. We usually start presentations at 4. And it's outside in front of the high school, weather permitting, or in the cafeteria. I try to attend that if I can. Light refreshments and the administrators honor the retirees, anyone in 15 years or more leaving the district is honored in a short presentation by the building administrator. Usually a really nice event to recognize folks who have given their careers to Hartford.
So we have one member that will be celebrating, who now has the new record for longevity. The old record for longevity was your office mate.
Yeah, Nancy.
For what, 50?
Nancy's got the record. She's 58 years.
Yeah.
Nancy Rittman.
So how many does
Carl Monfett has 53.
Oh, so he missed. I'm sorry. Sorry, Carol.
In January from the Archbishop School. 53 years.
That's a serious commitment. And sorry for the mix-up, Carl. but it's your commitment to the district is just outstanding. So just needed to make sure people knew. So that brings us. Oh yeah, H. Corey discussion.
Sarah, do you have anything, H. Corey, over that?
No, Pat sent a really good summary of the changes. It's just a structural change to both allow quorum to become easier and to take, to align more with how other committees are structured, and also to relieve the boards from having to present to members. So that is the meat of the change.
You know, and I think we had that discussion when you were both.
Both things, yes.
You know, with your split personality on both committees. And when Russ North was on and Nancy was on, you know, so it was always tricky to get two of us there.
Oh, yeah.
So. Seems like a move in the right direction.
Do we need to make a motion on this?
No, we'll formalize it at the next meeting.
Okay.
You know, this just gives you a chance to
Look at it.
you know, give it some thought. And if we want to add anything, you know, to it, we can. So,
Thank you.
it's almost like a policy first read.
Yeah.
So that being said, we are committee reports.
I'll start with VSBA. We meet every week, at least once a week, sometimes 2 and 3 times a week. This week, I think it's just going to be once a week. And we meet on Thursday mornings at 8 a.m. The executive committee does. And we are looking now at what is going to be the criteria for the representatives from the VSBA to be on the commission for the future of public education. There's a long list of people that's going to be on that commission, and we're taking it very seriously, and we're going to be hopefully sending 2 people that are going to be really gun-ho and really strong, especially in education. And that's about it for that. And Hartford Community Coalition, we're just still doing the same things. We're gearing up for the summer program now. It'll be starting the week after. Just the week after school ends, we start. So I'll be down in the cafeteria. For the summer, if you need to find me, I'll be downstairs, packing lunches and breakfast. Okay, that's it for me.
Doug?
The tech center, Tom and I had the privilege to have lunch provided by the students yesterday. And then we sat and had 2 Hartford students do their oral presentation for their 2 years here. I have to tell you, they are 2 vivacious, interesting people. They were, both of them were a little rocky and nervous in the beginning, but within 3 minutes of the presentation, man, they were in it. Really, it was interesting, but it was just to see these children, the young adults, they've just, well, the young man admitted that, and Tom may know more about that tonight, but he alluded to the fact that he wasn't necessarily a very good student when he arrived at Hartford. And he thought he was going to do whatever he wanted to do. And anyways, he's changed his tune, and he wanted to make sure that Tom realized this grade point average was now a B minus. And that was a big accomplishment for this young man, who is going to be doing something in computers. So anyways, it was just a privilege to have lunch provided by the students and then to sit there and watch these presentations.
That's great. We do that every year. It's probably the best regional advisory board meeting we have. It's good to hear from the kids. And the format is two students from each town that send students to the tech center. So we have, you know, 2 from Hartford in different programs. We have 2 from Woodstock that are in different programs. Hanover, Mascoma, Heartland, Windsor, and then there's a school board member, the superintendent from each district who listen. So it's a great meeting. Kids get a lot out of it. So do we.
Cool. Facilities?
Facilities hasn't met because we're gearing up for the new steering committee, and we just put out the call for applicants. Hopefully we get a few more interested parties, but we got a couple. And I think we'll probably want to meet in the next week or 2. Get going on the first project is the RFP for the catchment and enrollment studies. Pretty exciting. But we do need a few more members. It's a hard time of the year to do something like that because everyone's exhausted and we're asking them to join a committee that's going to meet quite a bit over the summer.
I'll try.
We're interested in buildings. Right to me.
Just like to see large amounts of money spent.
And, you know, while you're on deck, Doug, community engagement and Garrett, I know you guys met last week to talk a little bit about that.
Yes. We really didn't, other than a couple of ideas. Garrett, you there?
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, Doug, do you want me to share, I guess, some of those bullet points? I know I brought them up a little bit at the end of the last board meeting, but I'm happy to, go over them again. I guess they'd be considered more, I guess, goals for community outreach moving forward, or objectives. So I think we're headed in that direction anyway with some of the things that we talked about. Like creating a monthly newsletter. Maybe this will be the catalyst for it with getting bond information out there. But I would really like to, I guess, continue to cultivate either an email list and or mailing list so that we're really making sure that we're reaching all the members of our community. So I used myself as an example with 2 kids at the Ottaquechee School. I get a weekly newsletter about the Ottaquechee School, but I don't know what's going on at the other schools. And I would love to, not only as a board member, but as a community member. So I think if we could work towards, again, making sure all the methods of communication that we're using are, I guess, a little more targeted. I think that's the direction that we'd like to go. Make sure that Doug had mentioned something like making sure that we've got a bigger footprint in the Valley News, because for the folks that do get the Valley News, that's where they're looking for that information. And then the folks that are using social media for their information, we need to make sure that we get all of it there as well. So, I know that it's a lot of work, but I feel like it's going to do only good things by getting information to community members. I could keep talking forever, but Doug, is there anything else that, we chatted about that I'm missing or not thinking of?
No, Garrett, I think what we need to do to move forward is come up with a draft of what we consider a monthly newsletter. and
Absolutely.
go from there. And come back and share, obviously, with the board and get their feedback. But the first go-around is you and I.
That sounds like a plan. We can work on that the next time that we meet.
Cool. Well, thank you. Peter?
Policy committee has nothing to report because we're going to be meeting post-graduation, et cetera, end-of-year events. And we're looking forward to the calm that will allow us to dig into a pile of policies that we need to dig into.
What else?
I don't think there's anything to report other than the news that just that came out of that. We have always stressed that the ultimate number that taxpayers are going to be faced with is not up to us, doesn't depend on our budget to a great degree. And fortunately, this year's the budget fairies worked in our directions. We're 3% lower than we had thought we were going to be in terms of the percent increase over last year. So let's be thankful for small mercies.
So as far as the other piece of that, Jake's gearing up for the audit, and that's a pretty extensive process, where the team comes in and actually checks, like all of our accounting. I'm really pleased with, our team in the soup's office because Jake has done a really good job steering them in a solid direction. And that's why we get the ratings that we get from the audit firm. And not every school district gets the ratings we've been getting recently. So, and that's been ongoing. So kudos to the business office and the work that they're doing. I guess that's pretty much it for that section. So that brings us to public comments. The board welcomes public comments. This is a time for discussion, but the board, not a time, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is a time to just let it all hang down. The board welcomes public comments. This is not a time for discussion, but the board is interested in hearing comments, concerns, and suggestions from the public. We've taken a lot of care in coming up with the format that's at the base of the agenda that you see every week, and we continue to put that there so people know that there is a process that we use to respond. Okay, sometimes there's an immediate response. Sometimes we'll have a whole new meeting about it. We could have, a forum, on our community engagement night. There's any number of ways we could approach, the subjects. So this gives you, let's say the punch list, so to speak, of how we might approach these things. So the floor is open to the public.
I'm interested in this meeting. I'm here for another reason. But, what's your name?
Jonathan.
Jonathan. I listened to everything you had to say, and I'm a little lost. We're talking about disrupting the earth around this building, correct?
It will have to be done at some point, yes.
Correct. And it sounds like it's gonna go all the way around the building?
No.
No, not necessarily.
initial focus of this scoping work is determine what we do with the concrete stairs out here that need to be replaced, how we address some of the structural issues that go along with that, and then at the same time, looking at how that impacts the existing stormwater system.
When the stormwater goes by the pool, or what you said.
The stormwater, there's both surface stormwater structures that go out the front way, and then there's a subsurface drain that picks up the drainage from the parking lot and the roof leaders that goes out underneath the building and out to.
Parking lot up there.
No, it goes out actually through, in between WABA and the football field and exits daylights at the bank towards the interstate.
It's relatively close to that new pool. Digging wise.
It's a little bit, it's northwest of the pool where it comes out.
It's relatively close because of the clay.
Yep, so that would absolutely need to be.
The clay is probably gonna, as soon as they disturb that clay.
Well, it depends, so that part of the scoping study is to figure out exactly how we handle that. Well, no, we may not have to dig it up, and not to get, I don't want to make a commitment to the scope at this point, but one of the options might be, if we can divert enough to reuse that line, we can slip line it in place and not disturb that. We also might end up rerouting that completely and not using that as the path of drainage.
Right.
So we're not at a point now where we understand what that disturbance would be.
When they're looking at it, the disturbance they may have, are they looking at the impact on that pool?
Oh, yeah, everything around it. That's, you know, that's what I alluded to with keeping in mind what's there and what might be there and how it might impact moving.
But the front drainage, after we did this whole big parking lot thing, which was clearly full of clay, the drainage that goes there, or may end up headed there, may impact something that we didn't look forward to.
That's correct.
Well, that could be a lot of money.
That's correct.
Well, you know what I'm saying, on money that you're not talking about.
We don't know
No, that's
until the
that's my-
engineers,
right.
until the engineers review
Right.
all of that. When we did the initial redo of the parking lot, that major project, you know, of the parking lot here, when that particular project was scoped, it did not include
Oh,
these
no, I'm
pieces.
aware of that, that's what I'm saying, that's all what I'm saying, because I've heard a lot of things, and I can't see the distance. Nancy, what's your name?
Mhm.
She mentioned that you're talking about a lot of money that you got from other people. Yeah, which is always a hard one to swallow, because we have roughly 13,000 people in this town. You took that money based on 1,300 votes, less than 1,300 votes, and that stuff starts happening. You know, people are going to get ugly. I think they're going to get ugly anyways, because the rents are going up a lot. And, it's kind of a tough pill to swallow. You know, I'm lucky, I'm on that side of the Rainbow Bridge. You know, because I wouldn't want to be coming into this town and saying, oh, how wonderful it is, because I've been around a long time with Kevin and Mr. Heaviside, and I wouldn't say it is. You know, that's here and there. That's just my opinion. It's a tough thing. You know, but we could be getting into some very problematic situations. You know, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, because we seem to get kicked in the teeth every time we do something. It doesn't matter. We talk about WABA, Maxfield, well, we get the short end of the stick. And I heard a lot about committees. I have a committee watching every step that these contractors make. If there's bonds, don't let those bonds go until it's absolutely proven that everything was done and there's going to be no further impacts. You know, we let the bond go down to Smithfield, Maxfield. If it drizzles, you can't plant a field because it's like a sponge. So we really didn't get our money for it, and we may not hear. You know, I think that somebody has to take ownership and accountability for how that comes out. I left the company that I worked for because we had product line managers that wouldn't take ownership of nothing. So I said I didn't want to play anymore. And, you know, I'm not happy about retirement. I wish I had it. But if you can't get people to take accountability, you kind of run in circles. And I see a lot of circles running around this town.
Well, one of the things, you know, I think you heard tonight is that we're looking at how do we be as transparent as possible, you know, by having those active committees, having, you know, information available for the taxpayers. You know, we're not changing any of our plans, okay, because we only have a finite amount of money to deal with. And any of those changes necessary wouldn't be addressed without everybody being aware, you know, until which time, you know, we have civil engineers, mechanical engineers doing that work and taking that look and going, okay, we're on this path, because they're the ones we have to rely on for information.
That's a tough hill too.
Yeah.
I mean, so I've come here, I mean, I hate coming here. I hate coming to these school board meetings because I've known you so long. I've known you so long. So I can't help but agree with what you said. Absolutely agree. No, I agree. We talk about it all the time. But sometimes those wheels just get to spinning, you know. And you talked about those things, and Garrett wants to do a newsletter. It didn't appear that you guys wanted to jump on that bandwagon quick. I would have Garrett do that and get your stuff moving. You have some incredibly good talent in some of the teachers you have. I know their names. They could help you immensely with the movie stuff that you needed. And, you know, I mean, I don't know how to give you that answer because from my perspective, you do try to be transparent, but less than 1,300 people are paying attention. So, you know, where do you go? You know, I mean, I can't imagine we could ever put a track field in this town without doing it on that football field, but it's been clay my whole life.
That's why when we did the parking lot, it was so expensive because we had to dig down.
I'm fully aware of
1.5 feet.
parking lot.
Yeah, 1.5 feet in order to make it.
And have a lot further than 1.5.
Yeah, that's why it was so expensive.
Well, yeah, you know, because you got the burden of the fact that nobody paid attention when they built the building. They didn't really care because of the cost of labor. So, it's what it is, but, so. I do have something else, but I'm gonna let somebody else go first.
My name's Natasha, and I've been at Hartford Middle School for 3 years. And I can't tell you how excited I am to go to the high school. We have had some ups and we've had some downs at the middle school that I think that you guys should be aware of, and maybe when you're searching for a new superintendent, that's going to be able to support the teachers too, and the parents as well, because the teachers do need support. I remember when my son came up to me in 6th grade and he's like, "Mom, kids are throwing chairs at the teachers in school. They're cursing at the teachers in school." And I'm thinking to myself, no way, is that really happening? And it sure did, and it went on and on and on for a few years. And you know, I would say things to the teachers that there needed to be disciplinary actions put into place, and there was never any disciplinary actions, even for my child. You know, I said, hey, what about detention? You know, there needs to be consistency across the board, because I can't tell you one parent that I've spoken to that has really anything good to say. There's an attack on the boys in school. All right, and we need to build these men up, these young men up, to be respectable young men, and grow them and teach them and give them consequences. instead of sending them off to the basketball court or sending them out of the classroom. No, there's a consequence for your behavior, and this is how we're gonna handle it. And you're either gonna respect the teachers, or there's consequences. And there's not. Everything has been kind of washed under the rug for 3 years. This year has been the most trying for me. And, you know, the school has failed to intervene properly with my son in the bullying situation. We had a very bad situation at the school. And I know several students that are coming into 6th grade next year. And I think something needs to be done. And I know Tancredi's coming in, but there needs to be better documentation. Infinite Campus, I've checked it several times. It's never updated. The teachers, the parents need a better web-based system. I don't see anywhere in the budget that says anything about this web-based program for there to be a one-stop shop for the teachers so they don't have to send out plethora of emails to all these parents. How many parents do they do that to, you know? There needs to be a one-stop shop. These teachers need to be better supported in that area, you know, and we need to be informed of what's actually going on in the classroom. How are our students I sent emails in January. My child's not prepared for high school. And I know there's capable teachers there. I know there is. But we don't need to be handing them packets. We need to be, you know, shooting off astronauts into, you know, in science class or doing gravity, you know, teaching them about chemical substance. I don't know, you know, something. We need to engage. We need to have those teachers that have been here for 50 years. You know, they really need to empower these teachers, these young teachers, because we're not their friends. We're there to educate them. And there's a lot of going by your first name and not being, you know, their educator and being their friend, or crying in the classroom. We have teachers crying in the classrooms because they cannot handle the students. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with you guys. No, you don't cry in front of children. I'm sorry. You just don't. We have to do better for the kids that are coming in. We really and truly do. It's something needs to be done, really and truly, because the football, 8th graders, sniffing salts in the high school locker room. So aggression is coming out onto the football field. And my son is getting hurt, and I know many parents that know that they're sniffing salts. That is used to wake you up. If you're passed out. There needs to be better oversight altogether. We need more support for the teachers, we need more support for the parents, we need a better web-based program. I can't be more excited that there's 12 days left of school for middle school. My child should wear a jumpsuit, a prison jumpsuit, for what's going on in that school. But be as it may be, all we can do is look forward, but you guys really need to take a better look at what is going on in that middle school to help prepare these students to become young men. And stop attacking the men, the young boys who have an opinion. The teachers may not like their opinion, but if you're going to bring up the topic in class, you have to look at all aspects of it. We need to support our children, and we need to support our parents, and we need to support our teachers. We need to find a way to do it for the generation that's coming in. Thank you for hearing me today.
Thank you.
I want to jump back in there. This is the other reason I came. All you know the band teacher that's done at White River and up to high school at the same time, Connie. Incredibly impressive lady. Kevin's going to appreciate this most. She called when we was down to White River because he had taken the saxophone out. Personal thing happened with the other part of the team. Wasn't happy. So he was going to play the saxophone. And I told him to take the saxophone to school, send it back in. So this woman, Sherry knows me really well too, really well. And so this woman calls up and says, Mr. Thune. I said, yeah. And she started talking, and I tried to say something. In less than 3 minutes, she had beaten me in an argument. I lost. She told me flat out, she says, he's not bringing the instrument back. I'm sitting there dumbfounded. Me, Kevin. And she was so impressive. I said, okay, if we win. And she said, have you heard him play that thing? I said, oh yeah, all the time. She said, you notice he don't squeak? Yeah. So she was super pregnant that year, and that was the year, I think it was the first year of COVID, you know, end of the year when we first got into that stuff. She was super pregnant, it was super hot. And, she was out there giving 120% to the kids. So at the end of the year, they have this musical. So I go there and I'm thinking, no kidding, these guys sound like high school. And so, you know, time moved on, we got up to the middle school. And something happened with the music thing, somebody broke his foot. Couldn't be there. So we ultimately sent it in. So I'm telling you about one of the mistakes that I made. We all make mistakes. Sometimes I historically haven't really regretted anything, but that's not true anymore. There's a lot of my life's regrets that kind of come out because I'm 64 years old with a 14-year-old. So the school is important. You have some wonderful teachers. The other one is Miss Dixon, Deb Dixon. I never argue with her, you know, because I'd lose. And she's right to begin with. And she sends me whatever. And so my position, he gets mad at me a lot because we go to school. If there's a situation, I hear what they have to say. Instead of going in there like a big old ugly bear. And he also is, you know, it's right. It's what they did. And what they're telling me is right. And what he did, he failed. So, you know, he gets held accountable a lot once we're out of the building. And so that's kind of worked out. But for the last 2 years, 3 years, yeah, he's been there. This is his 3rd year. So the first year we got a math teacher. Nothing but problems. Actually, for all that she had just told you about, because she's bawling in the classroom, hollering at the kids because their test scores are poor. I'm thinking, well, that's your fault, you know. And, you know, she loves to tell you that her heart's in New York. She's also, she retaliates pretty much. We had a situation Monday. Me and Tom got to fight about it pretty good. And, because he asked for a pass. I don't really understand this pass thing that they do, because they can ask for a pass and that just really means they're going to get a break. They go down to the principal's office or somewhere. So apparently she said no. So his brain kicked right out of gear and did stupid stuff. So Patrick Lincoln got involved and, you know, they settled the thing down. It was pretty much all over. And so they're out of school. She's leaving to go to softball practice because she coaches. He's trying to get on the bus to go to Woodstock. I'm in Woodstock. I'd already left. So I get a call, all of a sudden, boom. So there was a problem there. So scrambling, trying to get the right person on the phone. But what had happened was the two made eye contact. Had there been 5 minutes difference, nothing. It would have been nothing. But so she makes a face at him, laughs at him, haha. Funny. She goes flying back into school. Mind you, she's already in her car. Gets out and goes in and gets Sarah Hissman and the AD guy there.
Joe James.
Yeah, Joe James. And so they come out, get back at each other. She's telling the coach, well, you know, this is an ongoing thing. The coach said, well, if it was, how come I'm hearing it now, 13 minutes before we leave? Ain't got enough players for the field. And so they decide can't play. okay? But she was already out of work, headed to her softball game. That I take note to. Because that, once you made contact, eye contact, and kind of laughed and said, funny, and then boom, back in there, that's retaliation. So of course I get the message, I come back, and I'm telling everybody, okay, we're gonna do that. I want the principal parties there so I can talk to them.
I'm not sure if this is appropriate. I'm sorry, I got called over here and I do stand up for my teacher, so there's a lot more to the story than both of you were telling. I don't want to have.
Well, but there's no documentation that goes on anywhere in that school. The documentation is not documented.
In private about some of the situations.
All right, so I'm gonna go this way, because we had the same conversation.
But let me tell you, there's a lot
It's not
more
just
to
us
this.
two, it's dozens of parents, dozens of
This time he's
parents,
lying.
dozens.
I am not lying.
Dozens of parents,
Oh, the other thing,
dozens.
I haven't talked to this woman all year. So I gather on my kid, him and I fight like this, and he can try to bully too, you know. I use some inappropriate language, absolutely. I was ugly. So I gather up my kid. I didn't pay any attention, but there's a cop out front, and then, so a lady would go up to the A game. The little girls on the softball team come running over and says, there was, cop showed up at our game. So, come to find out, bear in mind, I haven't spoken to her in a year, or this year. She called the cops. Well, you only do that if you're guilty and want to protect yourself. So, I've had it with her. I said to him, he was not even supposed to be in her class because we moved him into Tom's wife's class. So he said, I didn't hear nothing about it. Okay, it's not my job to inform them. I tell the school, those guys gotta tell me. So, you know, so for him to say that I'm not telling you the truth, it's pathetic. It's pathetic. I got nothing to lie about. I don't care if we go back to that school this year or not. You know, he told me he was gonna work it out. Have you told me who we're gonna send him to math for the rest of the year yet? We're talking about 3 days.
Tim,
All right, I'm done.
I think we went past the point, you know, for public discussion.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's fine with me.
you know, but I think that the discussion needs to be continued. Okay, so that.
I've had 3 conversations with Patrick Lincoln. Neither one of us are blowing up at each other. But ain't going on. Nothing goes anywhere. That's the point. Everybody's mad. We'll fill this room with people if you want. We can do it. You guys all have a good night.
Thanks, Tom.
One more?
Yes.
Thank you, Rick Gusteneicher, principal at the Hildenberg School. Sorry to scare you. I was hiding in the corner. Thanks for the cover. I'm here on behalf of the other administrators, and I was actually here to talk about the superintendent search, so thank you. I appreciate that you're already talking about it. You know, we wanted to ask for an update on what has been going on, but it seems like you're on top of it, which I really appreciate. And we would, as a district administrators, would love to be involved from the process from the beginning. So, reach out in whatever capacity you can, and we'd like to support you in the process and help us get the best candidate going forward. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So Rick, just so you know, because there is a quick response. We will be doing what we need to do, with, getting more information. We will be meeting, with the consultants as well. And we will be starting the discussion around implementation of the process. And the process, the way we were hoping to, see it move forward, is pretty clear because it's pretty standard. God willing, we don't have any more weirdnesses occur like we had during tax debates and things of that sort that kind of tipped the apple cart upside down, so to speak, because that really, put the next phase into, just going to stop, because of the funding and the budget and everything else. So we get to restart, which is where we need to be, and I think that you'll be pleased with what comes from it.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate how we're doing it in the summer so that we're well out in front to get the best possible candidate. And it's an exciting time for our district. And, transitions, there's always some sadness in saying goodbye, but there's also a lot of opportunities. So, please let us know, how we can stay connected with the process and support all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. With respect to the conversation that just took place around junior high, as was noted, we're basically at the end of the school year.
You're what?
We're basically at the end of the school year. And we are in the middle of a transition to new leadership in the school. But at the same time, I personally would be interested in a monitoring report on the situation there and the approach the administration is planning to take to try to address the issues that have been raised tonight and at other times. Some of these are due to reasons that have to do with why we have new leadership in the middle school and involve personal matters we can't discuss, but there's a long history there. And it would be, I think, appropriate, and I'm asking that we sort of have a summarization of what has been happening, what the issues are, and the expected approach to trying to deal with them with the commencement of the school year.
I agree.
I agree. I would love to get a summary of all of the incidents and things going on at HOMS. I've had, unsolicited, a lot of parents just tell me how bad it is, how bad it's been. I've heard through the grapevine. I don't know how much validity there is to this, but I've heard from someone that there are at least 3 families that do not want to send their 5th graders who are going into 6th grade to our middle school. So that's very concerning. So I wholeheartedly agree with getting a summary of everything that's going on and doing whatever we can to remedy it.
So that's, Garrett, just so you know, we have that tool available for us, the board, to make that request, of this superintendent, to do that, that report, that monitoring report that Peter is requesting. And it just takes the affirmation of the board, and it sounds like it's being affirmed. So that's the expectation. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Linda Satterley. I was going to try not to do a comment today, but now I need to. I would like to kind of touch a little bit on the middle school situation as well. I hear you saying you want the monitoring report and you want to be able to talk to the administration, whatever, but realize that these kids still have 3.5 weeks of being there, and kids are getting physically hurt every day by other students. And you guys have got, not you, but you in charge of the administrators, something's got to happen because these kids are getting rocks thrown at their heads. These kids are getting attacked in the hallways. And to just say a monitoring report.
I can't report on these things.
Right.
I can't. So there's a lot more to the story than that.
I agree.
And I beg the board to listen to me in executive session or through the monitoring report, but we're also, there's a lot more details that I'm being told in public, and I can't respond. So, it's really hard.
Just bear in mind that.
Hopefully the monitoring report will give us a means of addressing this issue in a way that respects the privacy where we have to, and laws that literally say you cannot talk about X.
Right, I'm not
and
asking
bring
for
this forward.
specifics,
Yeah,
but.
right. And so I'm hoping to get some insight, because until I have some insight, there's nothing I can do.
Well, and when you're.
Don't wait to get that insight.
And you investigate the facts and you know the hands-on details, but you know that's not what's being told tonight, it's very hard to listen to that. And I think it's just something the board should be really concerned about.
Jim, would you like to say?
I'm not saying there aren't issues, but I also want to say, there is a lot of support. I do defend the teachers and the rough kid, but kids are not getting hurt on a daily basis in rocks. If they are thrown, they are being dealt with.
May I?
Yes.
I want to just begin by asking one question. And I'm not going to end there, but I'm going to start with this one question. How bad does it have to be before we step up and do something about this? We're at the end of the school year, right around the corner, going to be out for the summer, and we are still in crisis mode. For the past 2 days, since Monday, I've had 4 parents, 2 of which are teachers in our district, come to me and say, this is what happened to my child. I haven't heard today whether the one child has a concussion or not. I'm not asking, because I haven't told them, because of our situation here, we are I can't ever say the word. Thank you very much. But that they need to take the process of going to the teacher. She's already done that, and she is a teacher. And now she's gone to the principal, and her child, when the child was hurt, went to the principal's office and was told, the principal is busy right now. There's no one that can see you. That's wrong. I don't care where you come from. That's wrong. And I've got a teacher telling me this. A teacher who is not kin to me. Oh, I know. I know that. But I need to get this stuff. I understand that. I understand that completely. But what's happening, as some other people have already said, we cannot stay in that crisis mode. We just can't. We're losing staff. We're losing children that have already been in our system, and some of those parents of those kids are staff. And they're saying, as someone else already said, I'm not bringing my child back here. I will not put my child through this again, not ever again. So my second question is, what are we going to do? What are we as a board, I'm challenging all of us, myself included, what can we as a board do to help get this situation taken care of? I have 2 things that came to my mind immediately. One was to clarify any expectations, both of what we are expecting of our staff and what we are expecting of ourselves, and to get ready to what we are still expecting of our superintendent and what we are expecting of whoever the new person is that's going to be coming in to replace him. We've got students being bullied and harassed. We've got students that we've got staff that's not being supported by administrators. We've got questions being asked from the public and from parents that are not being given answers to. There's some people right here in this room that can testify to this. They've been there, they're doing it, they're going through it right now. That's not okay. That's not what we want. We want our kids to feel safe when they go to school. We want our parents to know that those children are going to be safe while they're in school. I am very concerned about what I'm hearing. I'm and I'm sure every story has two sides, but the side that I'm hearing, I am very concerned, and it's not letting up. There's still stories coming in. And again, I have to say to these people, I can't do anything. Here's the procedure. Please go by this procedure so that you can be taken care of and your child can be taken care of and the situation will be taken care of. We've got to start asking some really hard questions. We've got to have some very difficult conversations. We've got to say, what are our options that we are going to take so that our staff and especially our students are front and center with the policies that we're making, with the policies that we have to redesign maybe. Maybe we need to look more at some of the policies that involve this kind of situation. I think it's not up to us, the board, to run the schools. That's what people like Dustin does back there, okay? That's his job. But it is our job to make sure they're doing that job. And that is part of what the state requires from us, and that is what our district requires from us. And I think it's really high time that we as a board take a stand and get some of these hard conversations going. Now then, my first request, not my third question, but my question, yeah, my request is that I would love for this board to go into executive session at the end of this meeting and under the, for personnel matters. I know it's not on the agenda. I did check and I was told that I could do that if something has come up, and obviously things have come up under this that I think we need to be discussing, and we need to be discussing it tonight. That's my request. That's my comments. Thank you.
You're going to make an official motion?
I would absolutely make a motion that we go into executive session at the end of this meeting to discuss personnel matters.
We'll second that motion.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Just for those who might be watching, this is well within the confines and purview of public meeting. There is a set of agenda items that can be brought up that don't appear on the agenda, and this is one of them. So, if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So, unless there's any further public comment, we'll complete our agenda and then move into that phase. So the consent agenda, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, sir. So the consent agenda, appointments, resignations, retirements, meeting minutes. So we'll start with the appointments, resignations.
Appointments, we have Kelly O'Donnell Peterson, Hilton Brook second grade teacher, Michaela Novakovic, Adequichi third grade teacher, and then we have a resignation, Katie Bellucci, high school Spanish.
No. No further about that?
With respect to the minutes, I have a correction that has to be made. On section 3, governance process, under the FY25 bond steering committee notes, at the very last line, it says, Mr. Heaviside stated that he will continue work on the facility committee. I believe the question that I had asked and which he was answering was whether or not he would be our appointee to the bond committee, and that he had answered in the affirmative, and then we then voted him into that position. So I want to make sure that this is corrected to, that he will work on the bond steering committee. If I am correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that was my understanding from listening.
So, that's my one correction.
Does that clarify that?
Yeah.
And just for global clarity, he is still our liaison on the facilities committee.
Correct.
So this is in addition to.
Yes. I'd like to move that we accept the consent agenda with the edit to the minutes I had suggested, and are welcoming to the new members of our community, and a very reluctant goodbye to solution.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to accept the amended consent agenda. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Our next meeting is the 12th of June. And would you mind doing our evaluation?
The board was prepared for the meeting. Satisfactory. The board's time was spent on ends, not means. Satisfactory. Each board member was given the opportunity to participate. Satisfactory. Board treated all persons with courtesy and fairness. I'd like to say we did, though there are some people who walked out on us. Perhaps needs improvement. Board adhered to Robert's Rules of Order as necessary or appropriate, and board adhered to its adopted governance style that it emphasized outward vision, it encouraged diversity in viewpoints, it exercised strategic leadership, not administrative detail, it maintained distinction between board and staff roles, used collective decision-making, it looked to the future. So that is satisfactory for all of those. So that is my assessment.
Cool. Thank you. So now we will. Do you have that chart?
I was about to go into that. So I would like to move that we find that there's need for an executive session pursuant to 313. Let me find the exact number. I wasn't prepared for this, so I haven't got it researched. Let's do 313.3, the appointment or employment evaluation of a public officer or employee, provided that the public body shall make a final decision to hire or appoint a public officer or employee in an open meeting and shall explain the reasons for its final decisions during the open meeting. So then I would also like to move that we enter into said executive session.
I need a second.
Yeah.
Second, please.
So we have a motion and a second to go into executive session at 7:51. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So moved.
Now, how can we keep
Aye.
going